that we had since 2008. Good news. Next, the board will take action on Resolution 21-15, authorizing the negotiation, execution, and signature authority for all documents related to the acquisition of right-of-way for the Red Top Road Bridge project. Following suit, next, Resolution 21-16, which similarly authorizes the collection of documents for the McIntosh Road Bridge project under the county's Bridge Bundling Project program. The county has this program, and that's what that action is to allow to happen. Next on the agenda under new business, the board will take action on a quitclaim deed transferring the stormwater system from the township to the authority. And then lastly, under action for the board is consideration of subdivision and land development actions, and a number of actions under that category. So with all that said, the members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. We'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand, and Supervisor Judd will lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That brings us to approval of minutes, and we have before us the minutes of the April 6th and April 13th, both business and workshop meetings. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the April 6th business meeting and the April 13th workshop meeting 2021.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. This is the time set aside for public comment. Before we move to public comment, I would like to announce that the Board of Supervisors did meet in executive session prior to this meeting and will do so again following this meeting. Public comment is the time to make comment on any item that is not on the agenda tonight. If you are here and wish to speak to an item that's on the agenda, we will take public comment on that issue at that particular time. So would anybody like to make a comment or otherwise make a statement relative, ask a question under public comment, an item not on the agenda this evening? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
My name's Derek Cohen, live at 4593 Ethel Street, and I was just seeing with the ordinance as 21-01, is the ordinance with 21-02 going to be discussed tonight?
2102.
It was like rezoning with town center.
The town center rezoning? No, that is not on the agenda tonight.
That's not on the agenda tonight?
No. As a matter of fact, the rezoning, you mean the Colonial Park Mall area and
Yeah.
all that? That proposed rezoning is still in development. And Brad, as I recall, it'll be August, September before we're going to be moving forward with public action on that?
At the next, there you go.
August 17th?
Okay.
August 17th, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to an item not on the agenda this evening? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and your name and address.
Hello, my name is Chris Kelly. I live at 4310 Ethel Street, Clear Park. I also was here find out about the town center, whatever it is.
Yes.
To find out about that. But the other thing I just wanted to bring address to was on Ethel Street. It has not been maintained for like years. Like on the other side, it's like all the mall, the whole way down. And it has branches and weeds growing. It hasn't been probably over 2 years. And it's like me and my wife are both legally blind. And we were walking down one day and I got poked in the eye with a branch and actually had to go get a cornea transplant in Philly.
Ooh.
So yeah, and it's like kids go down there all the time. It's very dangerous, and along there, and also right in back of Ethel Street, it's called First Avenue. I believe it is. It's the township says they don't own it. I mean, but it has a name. I mean, it has a road there, and that's another thing that's not been kept, hasn't been kept up in over 10 years. They tested. I had them tested last year for West Nile virus. It's tested positive. It's flooded constantly. It's weeds the whole way up.
This is alongside the roadway or just vacant property?
This is it's like an alley, but it's called I think
It's actually, excuse me, I'm
it's
sorry.
my wife. I'm sorry.
But, hi, sorry guys. My name is Cassie. I live at 4310 Ethel Street, and it's actually considered Middle Avenue.
Or Middle Avenue, yeah. Sorry.
It's actually it's behind our house, and there's a group of us. It's one section by the library, but it's behind the home. And it's just this whole alley that it's just not attended to. We actually tested positive.
No,
They tested the alley positive twice for West Nile virus. And then when we try to take care of it, we keep maintenance of the alley as much as we can with our elements that we have. We take care of the section as much as we possibly can, but trash gets thrown out there. Just all sorts of different things, and then we address it. We come in and we say, look, there's a problem with this, and then they said it's ours, that it's our responsibility. But then when we go to address it, to try to do something about it, we're told that we're not allowed to.
Who's telling you that?
The township, we've been here a few times.
Yeah. Well, I called the township out there, and they say they don't own. Like they said, the township doesn't own it. But I said it's a road, and they said, well, they don't own it. They use it for, I guess, like ambulances or first aid or stuff like
First
that to get
responders,
in. First responders, but.
But it's basically, if first responders are gonna try to go through there, I mean, there's trees and branches and everything everywhere. I can't see an ambulance going
There's
past
actually
there.
a tree that's fallen like halfway up that road that's been there for 3-4 years.
And
that
there
you
are
can't
trees,
get down.
excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting. There are trees that are actually, they're rotting and dying that are actually gonna be
Okay, Brad.
major.
Brad, let's get with Jeff Klein and go out and take a look at that and see, because sometimes there might be an alleyway, but if it was never dedicated to the township, it wouldn't be ours. So we'll have to do some research to find out what the status of that property is, whether it's private or public. But I know where you're talking about, but we're going to need to go out and take a look at it, I think.
We would
why-
really appreciate that.
Sorry, does it connect Colonial Road to Cove Road? Is it?
Yeah, it's actually right before. It's like right in between there.
And it's not paved though, right?
No.
Well, it's
It's-
paved right when you
little bit.
turn. It's paved like when you go in and down a little bit, but it's gotten so bad. It's like all rocks and grass now. But then when you go up the next street, there's another alley down. It goes down.
That looks like it might have connected
Looks
to at one
perfect.
point.
Yeah, that looks
Probably in
perfect.
the 40s or 50s, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask, who tested for West Nile virus?
Oh,
The
the
township.
township. We had the township out twice actually.
The
Really?
township?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't remember what his name was.
Dauphin County?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
Dauphin County did it.
Dauphin County.
Dauphin
Do they
County.
not,
Because I didn't think we did West Nile testing.
well, do they not tell the municipality if they get a positive test?
I believe so, because a lot of different people that actually live there had to make some changes with their homes and,
So we
they had
know,
more-
so township knows about it.
Yeah, but we keep trying to get, at least, if the township at least knows about it, at least try to, fix it, keep it up a little bit more, because trees are gonna end up falling on our property.
Was there water back there?
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Every time it rains, it's hard. Mosquitoes. You can't even go out back at my house. You can't even go back. It's so bad.
And like I said, my husband and I'm not trying to use the disability card here, but my husband and I are both visually impaired, so we barely can, keep up with our own home maintenance, let alone if by some reason my son's outside playing basketball and a tree from Middle Avenue just so happens to fall, on our property where my son's
Yeah,
playing.
there's a lot of dead trees right there. that are just ready to fall. I mean, it's any day. We had a neighbor come over, it's so high, but he cut some of it off, but it's so high, he couldn't get up with a lift. So,
All right, well, we're going to have to go out and take a
Yeah,
look at it and
great.
figure
Thank
out
you.
exactly who owns what before we can really give you
great.
an informed answer.
Yeah.
But
That
we
was
will,
a-
we
the
will
big-
do that.
The biggest thing was the other side right there at the mall where, on the other side of Ethel Street, where it goes on the sidewalk. That was actually the biggest deal they just came to address.
And is that mall property?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
And he was walking and
Yeah.
he turned in the branch, 4th of July weekend. He turned and he had an artificial cornea and already because he has a degenerative eye condition, and he turned his head and the branch busted his cornea on the 5th of July of last year.
Okay. So can you have them look into that too, Brad?
Sure,
Thank
sure we
you.
can, definitely.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Sorry for keeping
Absolutely.
taking
No,
too much
no.
of your
Yeah,
time.
That's
if
what
the
you're here-
mall
that's what
is
we're here
not
for.
maintaining its portion, we can speak with them.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good relationship with the mall folks, so we can talk with them.
Great, awesome.
Okay, we will follow up on that. Any other items not on the agenda tonight anyone would like to speak to? Any items not on the agenda? Okay, then with that, we will go to chairman and board member comments. Board members, do you have any comments?
Saturday night, my husband and I attended the drive-in movie that the Parks and Recreation put on. Probably close to 100 people there. So it was a great turnout, and thanks to Barb Gayante, she was taking care of that. This morning, Mr. Gutschall and myself attended the Greater Harrisburg Area Realtors Association seminar. They talked about planning, zoning, and they talked about young millennials would like to have less acreage and smaller houses and cheaper houses. So we thought that that was interesting. I don't think they want to mow the grass.
They're not the only ones who don't want to mow the grass.
Well, I don't think my son will ever own a lawnmower.
Any other board members like to make a comment at this point?
Yeah, actually, I would. So, Norm and I have been out talking to a lot of people. We got some really good suggestions from a lot of people. As a couple of meetings ago, I talked about somebody in our community, and we have a lot of outstanding people in our community that I think, I would like to, maybe consider coming up with some way of recognizing them. And I think, Dauphin County does something, where they give somebody a day. My thought was kind of just be able to have somebody come to the meeting, tell everybody, what that person has done in the community, whether it's charity or something that they gave back, and recognize them with, a certificate from us. And I know that a lot more thought has to go into that, but I think that, if we can put something on our website to allow people to kind of, make a suggestion of, I think that so-and-so should be for this, maybe we can review that and maybe quarterly kind of recognize someone, or, a couple times a year, just recognize someone for the great work that they're doing in the community. Because as our community grows, I keep finding these people in it that really just are amazing. I think they just need some recognition. I think that they deserve it. So for what it's worth, I think that's something that we could consider.
Okay. You may be in charge of the committee to develop that.
I will gladly do that.
Mr. Judd, do you have any comments? No. Okay. Manager's report, Mr. Godshall.
Yes, sir, members of the board. I only have one item this evening, and it's an exciting opportunity that I have had over the past number of weeks and months, and that is to introduce a number of new hires to the board and to the public in general. And this evening I continue that exciting opportunity with the recent replacement of some long-standing and retired township employees. So with us this evening is Veronica Newbaum, who began as a clerk within the police department on May 10th, replacing Michelle Kwasnowski, who recently joined the clerical staff of the sewer department. Ms. Newbaum, a graduate of Central Dauphin, joins us from the private sector, where she served a number of years with various well-established organizations, providing administrative assistance in a number of capacities. I am excited to have Veronica on staff, where I know she will make great contributions to the and also assist the police department in tending to many of the very tedious and time-sensitive reporting and data collecting that helps to keep the township's public safety apparatus running smoothly and responsibly. With all that, Veronica, hello. Why don't you come on up to the podium here and meet the board and the public. And Veronica, with all of our new hires, let me just ask you one question, particularly for the benefit of the board. What excites you the most about working with Lower Paxton Township?
Well, as you mentioned, I have always been in the township. I grew up here, went to school here. My family has been residents of the township since the 1950s. I think it's a great place to live, and I'm very excited to continue helping people in the capacity of helping the police department.
Awesome.
Very nice to meet you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And if I may, I had to call the police department today to find something out, and Veronica directed me in the right. I can't believe I got to meet you tonight.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Very timely. Thank you, Veronica. And that is all I have.
Okay.
Sir, thank you.
We appear to have a mouse issue with the computer.
Great technical. I'm
It
also
now
having
appeared-
technical.
The mouse, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's corrected itself now. Let's see. I'm trying to get back to it's bouncing around all over the place, which is very odd. Agenda. Let's see if we can make this work now here so that everybody, there we go. So that everybody can see what it is we're talking about as we're talking about it. Okay, we have no old business, so we'll now move on to new business. The first thing we need to do is to take action on a renewal to the agreement for crossing guard services with All City Management Services Incorporated. Mr. Godshall.
Yes, sir, members of the board. As presented by Director Koshiba during your workshop meeting of last week, the time for an annual update to this agreement has arrived. This renewal represents an increase over the 2020-2021 total contract cost in the amount of $1,771, which again split in two. Of course, with the school district, that would bring Lower Paxton's portion to $885.50. So at this time, staff recommends affirmative action on this renewal.
Board members, any questions about this proposed renewal? Any public question or comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the renewal to the agreement for crossing guard services with All City Management Service, Inc.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We now need to take action on a satisfaction piece for the Paxtonia Fire Company mortgage. This sounds like good news.
Very good news, sir. Yes. So on November 3rd, 2008, the township extended a mortgage to the Paxtonia Fire Company for their fire station at 125 South Johnson Street in the amount of $421,435. Late last month, the township received the final payoff check from the fire company and has now been made whole. This satisfaction piece before the Board of Supervisors this evening certifies satisfaction of this 2008 debt in its entirety. So very good news, and we're happy to place this before the board.
Is there anybody here from the fire company? No?
No.
Okay.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Congratulations.
Yes. Any public question or comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve satisfaction of Paxtonia Fire Company mortgage.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
9C, we need to take action on Resolution 21-15, authorizing the negotiation, execution, and signature authority for all documents related to the acquisition of right-of-way for the Red Top Road Bridge replacement project. Mr. Godshall.
Yes, sir. Supervisors, Resolution 2021-15 simply authorizes the township manager to execute all documents related to the acquisition of rights-of-way for the Red Top Road Bridge Replacement Project, and also Jack Hildebrand of HRG, our engineer, to negotiate the acquisition of rights-of-way on behalf of the township for this project.
Okay.
Brad, you know when that's going to start?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that, Mrs. Lindsay, and I was trying to dig through my my files. I could not actually find when the construction will begin, but this resolution will get the project rolling hopefully very quickly. They need this in order to award the contract, so hopefully very, very shortly.
I think they originally said the fall, but I wasn't too sure if it was pushed.
I think this project remains pretty much on track, so that hopefully still holds true.
And for the public, this is the bridge at Nye Road. I guess there's some additional land at the intersection. They're making it, rejiggering it just a little bit and adding some little more, making it a little easier. So some of these things we have to do to get the project ready.
Yes.
Sort of an administrative step, if you will. Any public question or comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2115 authorizing the negotiation, execution, and signature authority for all documents related to the acquisition of right-of-way for the Red Top Road Bridge Replacement Project.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Brings us to 9D. We need to take action on Resolution 2116, authorizing the County of Dauphin, Pennsylvania, to award the construction contract under the intermunicipal cost-sharing agreement between the township and county for the bridge bundling program. This also relates to Red Top Road, correct?
Mr. Chairman, this one actually
Bridge.
relates to McIntosh.
Oh, McIntosh.
That's mine.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay, we're over on McIntosh. All right.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure. Taking care of all the bridges tonight.
All the bridges, bridge night, okay.
So with this project being part of the Dauphin County Bridge Bundling Program, Resolution 2021-16 extends authorization to the County of Dauphin to award the construction contract in this project. With bids having been received and opened previously, it has been established that Kinsley Construction Incorporated is the lowest responsible bidder. And so once the board passes this resolution this evening, the county will have authorization, at least from Lower Paxton, to proceed with this contract. And so with all that, I'd be happy to help answer any questions.
Well, you already answered my question. Anybody else have a question?
Just as a reminder, the county has this program in which it helps the municipalities pay for their bridge repairs.
Yes.
It's very useful for township taxpayers.
Dauphin County is certainly on the cutting edge of this issue. I mean, that's a lot of counties are far behind Dauphin, very far behind Dauphin, and I think soon the county will have almost 100%, or may already with this list have 100% of their locally owned bridges rehabbed and up to PennDOT specifications. So.
Yes, Commissioner Saylor last week told the Rotary Club that we have 100% of our bridges, county and municipal, that are rated as passed, whatever the requirements are. We have no deficiencies in our bridges, so many of them are small, but they're very important. Any public question or comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-16 as presented by Mr. Gutschall.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
That brings us to 9E, and we need to do a quick claim deed transferring the 2019-2020 stormwater systems from Lower Paxton Township to the Lower Paxton Township Authority. So, Mr. Godschall, are you handling that one?
I'll try, sir. Yes.
See,
Mr.
Mr.
Weaver.
Stein is here if we have any legal questions regarding it.
Yes, so this type of action should look familiar to most of the board anyway. With the introduction of the stormwater program here in Lower Paxton, the Township Authority will be taking over ownership of all of the stormwater infrastructure. And so, as it's done in the past, the Board of Supervisors must convey ownership through this quitclaim deed of its currently owned stormwater infrastructure to the authority. So this will be an ongoing, hopefully yearly process of turning over such ownership of infrastructure. And the last action that the board took only went up to 2019. So that's why you see that kind of an odd date this time. But
Okay. Board member, questions or comments? Public questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion? Yes. Oh, we have one? Okay, could you come to the podium and give us your name and address, please? And Brad, can you turn the air conditioner on or something? It's getting a little warm in here.
My name is Mark Levine, 1507 Knollcrest Road, Lower Paxton Township. Quick question, is there a system in place to keep the storm sewer monies separate from the authority monies for domestic sewers, or to prevent commingling?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many different silos of money within the sewer department, depending on the program and the project. Anybody else? Now I see none. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve quitclaim deed transfer 2019-2020 stormwater system from LP Lower Paxton Township to the Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Go
Moved
ahead,
in.
Chris.
Moved and seconded by Mrs. Lindsay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to subdivision and land development. And we have before us action on ordinance 21-01, amending the Lower Paxton Township zoning map for parcels 35-004-694 and 35-004-030, changing them from AR to R1. And Mrs. Zerby, do you have any comment? Nope. What's that? Oh, it's a public hearing. Ah, okay, it says Mrs. Zerby on here. Oh, great, I'm going to ask the attorney to put this into English for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is time and date set for the public hearing on Ordinance 21-01. Ordinance 21-01 would amend the Lower Paxton Township zoning map for two parcels, 35-004-694 and 35-004-030, changing the zoning of those parcels from AR to R1. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard on Ordinance 21-01? Just go to the podium, give us your name and address.
I think there's a map here somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I thought there was. Oh, there we are.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Joel McNaughton with the McNaughton Company here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Parkway Farms Associates, and to present in favor of the ordinance 21-01. The application that you have before you is requesting a change in the Lower Paxton Township zoning map for the subject properties from AR, agricultural residential, to R1, low density residential. And as I'll share with you tonight, I think as evidenced probably best by the recommendations for approval from Lower Paxton Township staff, the Lower Paxton Township Planning Commission, and the Dauphin County Planning Commission, really we kind of view this as less of a rezoning and really more of an opportunity to conform the township zoning map to what the various comprehensive plans say that it should be zoned. And as I talk a little bit more in the next minute or two, I think that'll make a whole lot of sense. I don't want to talk too long. You know, I was reminded as I was preparing today, I had a law professor, and they said, if the facts are against you, argue the law. If the law is against you, argue the facts. If both are against you, you know, scream and yell and bang on the table. And then he sort of always added this last one, which I thought of today, and that's, you know, if both are for you, you pretty much need to sit down and, you know, don't screw it up. And so I think that's what I'm going to try to do here is sit down and don't screw it up. The properties, there are 2 tracts. It's just under 32 acres. They are located west of Parkway West and east of Autumn Oaks at the current terminus of Continental Drive. The development of this property will offer the opportunity to extend Continental Drive from its current end in Autumn Oaks over to Parkway West, which meets a long-term goal of the township to make that connection. The property is now serviced with public water and public sewer. I think that's a very important distinction, especially when looking at the information in the comp plans. It's also served with natural gas and other underground utilities. The property is currently farmed. It's generally open, and it has limited environmental or topographic features, very similarly situated to any other, you know, property in its sort of standing. The property is currently zoned agricultural residential. If it were developed under current zoning today, that would be as an open space development, which permits 1 dwelling unit per acre. So it would be developed into 32 dwelling units. Those lots would be required to be 20,000 square feet, or approximately a half acre in size, and 40% of the tract would be required to be set aside as open space. By the rezoning, again, most likely use of the property and the use that we would propose, and which was included in the sketch plan with our application, would be as an open space development. That would permit a total of 48 lots. Those lots would be 10,000 square feet, or like a quarter of an acre in size, and would still be required to set aside 40% of the tract as open space. So, you know, those 2 zones sound very similar, same amount of open space, slightly smaller lots under the R1 zoning district. Lots that we find, and perhaps Commissioner or Supervisor Lindsay heard this morning, are the types of lots that are really in demand in Lower Paxton Township and elsewhere. I mentioned comprehensive plans a few times. You know, as we all know, comprehensive plans are guides. They sort of set directives and goals for the township, and they tell policymakers, you know, what are those things that we need to do to meet those goals and desires for the community. And when you talk about rezonings, probably the first question generally almost always is, you know, is this request consistent with the comp plan? And this is one unique to my experience where, you know, it's the current zoning and what the comp plan says that it should be are inconsistent in a way where the property is underzoned, if you will. Your comp plan, the Lower Paxton Township comp plan, the Dauphin County comprehensive plan, and there's a third comp plan in play here, which is called the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission's Regional Growth Management Plan. Those are the 3 plans that govern in different maybe elevations, development and planning within Lower Paxton Township. What's consistent in those comp plans is they say, as a matter of policy, that you should direct growth and manage growth towards those areas with existing or planned facilities and services. What's that mean? That means that appropriate growth zoning should exist in areas that are serviced with public water and public sewer. And like I mentioned a minute or so ago, this property is serviced with public water and public sewer. Out of all of those documents, and it's probably thousands of pages, and I probably shouldn't admit that I've read them, but I have, probably the best two sentences I think that are applicable to tonight come from the Lower Paxton Township Comp Plan. And it says, and I'll quote, that the township should direct most growth to locations in designated growth areas that have public water and sewage service. And then a sentence or so later it says that by making best use of the areas that are suitable for development, it will be possible to minimize sprawl in outlying areas that consume excessive amounts of farmland or forest land per home. So it's telling you when you have water and sewer, you should get appropriate zoning there, still in harmony with surrounding uses, but to make sure that we don't continue the process of sprawling further and further out into other undeveloped areas. Your comp plan has a couple other points that I think I'll just make. First, the AR zone in your comp plan is defined as areas not planned for public sewer service. The R1 alternatively is defined as areas for single-family detached homes at a density of 2 homes per acre with utility service. Again, the comp plan is saying this property, it meets the criteria for R1, not AR. Your comp plan designates this property as developable land. I think that's an important distinction. And as I mentioned earlier, the Continental Drive extension is included in your comp plan, the transportation portion of your comp plan, as a desirable ultimate improvement. Again, Continental Drive would be extended by this development from Patton Road, it's halfway there, over to Parkway West, excuse me. The Dauphin County Comp Plan, Tri-County Regional Planning Commission's Regional Growth Management Plan, they echo these same concepts and thoughts. The Dauphin County Planning Commission's approval letter, recommendation for approval on this application, I think articulates those things, and it's really much of the same, so I wasn't going to go through those. In summary, I'll get out of here. You have 2 pieces of property, 32 acres in size. They're currently zoned inconsistent with your comp plan. Your comp plan says that land service with public water and public sewer should be zoned efficiently. That efficient zoning, while still compatible, which would be here, helps to minimize sprawl. And these properties, I think, again, as evidenced by the recommendations for approval by your township staff, Township Planning Commission, and Dauphin County Planning Commission, should be zoned R1, and we would therefore request your support and adoption of Ordinance 21-01. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNaughton. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to be heard on Ordinance 21-01? Yes.
Hi, I'm Lori Stokeburn. I'm at 2191 Parkway West. I was just asking if, with the rezoning, does that impact us? We have agricultural property that's going to be aligned right next to this and the road. So we were just looking at, I think there's a couple other people here that have property right along where this development's going in, and we're curious if that's going to impact us, or we're going to be expected to go into the public system and tear up our fields to be a part of that.
Amanda?
Do we need Mrs. Zerby or Mr. McNaughton to answer that?
They could, but I think the answer to that is no. I don't think that's going to be expected, because you're still would still be zoned AR. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're the farm that lines right up against
Right.
them. So I just wanted to make sure that that's not going to impact our zoning or change our ordinances or anything, because we do have.
It shouldn't impact it, no.
Okay, because we do have the farm plus the animals there. So I just wanted to make sure that that's not going to become an ordinance issue later when we have a development moving right up against our farm and then.
It shouldn't cause an issue. I mean, obviously you have an active farm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that shouldn't cause an issue, I wouldn't think.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
Yeah,
Thank you.
if I can speak real quick, if you look at the township zoning, you know, we have plenty of R1 up against AR. You know, I mean, you know, there's a line. In fact, my property where I live, I'm up against AR. So, and I've, yeah, so now I'm part of a neighborhood, but yeah.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on ordinance 21-01? Yes, sir.
Good evening again. My name is, do I have to repeat my name and address?
Yes, sir.
Mark Levine, 1507 Knoll Crest Road, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Lower Paxton Township. I'm also the chairman of SWAN, Stray One Area Neighbors. And we attended the Planning Commission meeting, and we gave testimony there. One of the things which you should be aware of is that there was the county gave a report as to what they felt on this piece of property, and so did the staff. Right now, I have to do something that is kind of painful, and that is to have a criticism of some people I respect very much because they do marvelous work. Staff gave a recommendation that was positive for this project. However, my criticism is they did not say why. What were the reasons behind what they did, behind their actual approval? And with that out of the way, I'd like to read you some of what was given to me by our vice chair. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. SWAN is concerned about non-contiguous open space or a developer getting credit for preserving open space that is undevelopable due to slope or proximity to wetlands. You are approaching, by the way, the watershed area of the streams. The applicant states that the rezoning will allow the applicant to extend autumn oaks in a manner which is more compatible with existing surrounded land uses. But if this plan was approved in the land surrounding three sides, farm woodlands to the north, farm woodlands to the east, and wetlands woodlands to the south will be in conflict. The McNaughton Company application does not generally go along with the comp plan and the Planning Commission by proposing smaller lots to accommodate more homes without consideration for additional open space. Open space, according to their sketch plan, has 4 fragmented pieces of land, including 2 long and narrow strips that outline the parcel. The open space is not contiguous. A parcel of land that includes and abuts wetlands and would have deleterious impacts on downstream floodplain areas is also involved. Now, the Dauphin County Planning Commission letter in part says, explicit designations of local and regional plans are not consistent with the proposed rezoning. The Commission notes the potential for exacerbating the environmental limitations of this site, especially for storm water management and flood control. As past severe weather has shown, present standards may not be enough to control damage to surrounding properties. Finally, the Commission reminds the Township that if rezoned as proposed, the property could be developed with any of the permitted uses and provisions allowed in that district. Once rezoned, all permitted uses are possible, and the applicant is not obliged to develop the property as suggested through their sketch plan. The Township should be comfortable with any and all possibilities permitted in the rezoning of this property. Dauphin County Planning Commission supports the application, but plainly reads like an argument for denial. Part of the comp plan also says regarding sewers that you must be hooked up to sewers if you're close to sewers, and those people who are closest to sewers get hooked up. Within the existing territory as Lower Paxton Township is right now, you have certain areas which are going to be hooked up to the sewer system. At the end of Goose Valley Road, there's a piece of property, huge piece of property, presently undeveloped and in grass. That is going to be developed someday. Colonial Country Club is going to be developed someday, and I think it's going to be relatively short. They're going to be hooked up to our domestic sewers. We have a huge piece of property off of Colonial Road to the west, Sandy Prohl's property. That's going to be developed someday. Across the street from that on Colonial Road is a Kessler property where the plan has already been approved. That's going to be developed. Those folks are going to be on the sewer system. At what the township wanted to build tanks to hold sewage to keep it from going down to the Harrisburg Sewer Authority to be processed during peak hours and to distribute it then later on. That deal fell through. But at what point does the Harrisburg Sewer Authority get choked to the gills? That is the question. Additionally, what you see up here on the screen, the outline of the property, is the only thing that you're going to be voting on tonight. A sketch plan should not be adequate for this number of houses. You need a preliminary plan. You need to see what they're going to actually put in there. Swan is not against the development, but what we are against is irresponsible development and irresponsible decisions based on passion rather than logic. My suggestion and our suggestion is you table this until you get a preliminary plan with what they really are going to put there, where they're going to have contiguous land set aside, and where you can really take a look at what's happening. Because right now, you're just throwing dice. And there's a lot to be considered, because if you do this with R1, anybody can use this piece of property to argue on the neighbors when that land eventually becomes available and it will. But preliminary plans are much more important than a sketch plan. We worked that out with Triple Crown when they did the Stray Winds Farms. And we worked with them for several years in order to get the Stray Winds Farms settled out. But you gentlemen and lady have to be cautious. I know I wouldn't vote for it until I got a preliminary plan. I would not work off a sketch, not for something that's this important. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to be heard on ordinance 21-01?
It's always easier not to talk at these events. My name's Diane Little. I'm on Parkway West, 2300. I'm a retired science teacher, so I have some background in this. And I think a plan, I appreciate the comp plan. I'm familiar with it. But I think we have to be concerned with the pollution reduction plan that is mandated through the state, DEP, and we're in partnership with Susquehanna Township on this. This is not just state DEP, it's also federal. So part of that, part of our storm fee that everybody pays, it's because we're actually fined by the Department of Environmental Protection. And they have found, and this is also federal, have found that 20 miles of Paxton Creek, or approximately 40%, are impaired. And so, let me try to make this basic. So Paxton Creek is feet away from this new development. It's downhill. And Parkway West is a beautiful, you should drive on Parkway West, it's gorgeous. Anyway, so Paxton Creek runs basically, I don't know, 70 feet from this development. So the water, which runs downhill, is going to go into Paxton Creek. Now, it might not sound like a big deal, but Paxton Creek is overloaded with sediment, and the sediment has contaminants in it, which you might not see, but it's tested by the state, who has to answer to the federal government. They can, and the federal government wanted to fine us a lot more than is in effect right now, and that could change. What if you didn't pay for the daily load? Daily load is the sediment that goes in the creeks. Paxton Creek empties into the Susquehanna River. Then it empties into the Chesapeake Bay. So you're talking not Lower Paxton Township, this nice township. You're talking, you got to answer to the state. You got to answer to the federal government. So that stormwater fee could rise so much, you could be fined, the township could be risen so much it would be absurd, wouldn't be affordable. What if it wasn't $32 or $38 a quarter? What if it was $800 a quarter? Anyway, that's basically, I think we should be concerned about that plan in addition to the comp plan. I understand what was said, but there are environmental issues. And it's not just because it's nice. You know, it's beautiful. Parkway West is rural. You got the horses, you got the beautiful farms, beautiful people. But it's also state law that we have to reduce the overload in Lower Paxton by 35%, and that's long-term. So we agreed, this is with Susquehanna Township, you can look it up. We agreed to like 10% over the next 10 years to eventually go down to 35% to satisfy DEP and the federal government. And then, they'll stop looking at Lower Paxton. It's easily tested. Anyway, I think that's a concern we should look at in addition to the comp plan, because you're talking fines. Could get fines, and we have been fined. Anyway, that's what I have to say. I don't think it's a good idea. I think with development, you have to watch, you have to be aware of this mandated pollution reduction plan that we are in partnership with Susquehanna, and we have to answer to DEP and the federal government. Anyway, the end.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I? Actually, I just wanted to add something. Ma'am, thank you for coming up, having the courage to speak. Definitely appreciate that. There were some holes that I want to clear up real quick, though. I agree with but you must not be aware. You did your research, and I appreciate that. And, I can tell that you did. But we were just awarded an award for the entire state for having, cleaner waterways. Let me tell you a story. Listen here. I go fishing, right? Okay. My father-in-law worked for DEP for years. So when I was in high school, I used to go fishing an awful lot. And I used to fish this area very heavily because I grew up here. Now, how many people go fishing in this crowd? Yeah? So the stuff that she was referring to is called graybeard, right? Graybeard is, something that you find in the water because of proteins. Where do they come from mostly? And I'm not disagreeing with anything, but I have to clear this up because they're just fallacies that you spit out there a little bit. So graybeard is mostly, and I had a 70-acre horse farm, had a lot of horses, and the biggest offender for graybeard and for pollution in our waterways is going to be fertilizer, correct? Not saying that farming is wrong. I was a farmer. I want to see more farms. I like to see more open area. Had a 70-acre horse farm, like I said, and I put it in clean and green so that nobody could ever develop that. And if they did, they had to pay back taxes. So, so I'm for farmland for sure. But those were some things that we need to clear up a little bit. Graybeard in the streams, that's caused from mostly, and you can look this up from DEP, is going to be from having fertilizers on property. That's where we're having our issues in our watershed and things like that because of fertilizers. That's also why Lower Paxton Township, has some restrictions on how fertilizer is kept at horse farms and how manure is kept at horse farms, because when it rains, that stuff is going to run into our streams and rivers. So I appreciate you coming up here, and a lot of that was absolutely true, but those were two things that we need to clear up. We got an award for having great streams, so we do a great job. We also make sure that other programs that we have protect our streams by making sure that we deal with our manure and stuff appropriately.
And you're right, stormwater is a major concern. We're not currently being fined for stormwater. It's relatively new mandate that was handed down for all the municipalities, and there are benchmarks we have to meet, and we're doing a good job at doing that. It just so happens 3 of the board members here are on the authority board, so we're in pretty deep with this. And I know there are more hoops that developers have to jump through now than there were years past for stormwater management, which is good. So your concern is not invalid. I just don't want to make it seem it's as dire as maybe you suggested, that possibly a stormwater fee could go from $28 a quarter to $800. I know you didn't literally mean that. But it is definitely a concern. I don't think everything I know that this is a threat to that, but for anything we do anywhere in a township, particularly near one of our watersheds or near it, especially that close to it, you do have to consider it. It's definitely a valid consideration.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on ordinance 21-01?
Other side. When we go back to our normal seating, it'll be easier for you to conduct these hearings. You don't have to turn around. We're still on COVID protocol with distancing.
My name is Joanne Link, and I live on Ethel Street. I just saw a deer go by in front of my car on Ethel Street up toward Boscov's and then stopped because of the fence, probably a little older fawn. And we think of ourselves as a little gem in the midst of great improvement in society. Colonial Park is a residential kind of name, and when we moved here in '65, we thought of it as a residential community, and now not only do we have all of the issues we've mentioned today so clearly, but also the people who live there. And I've lived there since '72. We bought a house on Ethel Street because the children could walk to school every direction. And now those children are all grown up and gone, and the residents are still there trying to make a whole life out of a very busy, newly from when we moved there, area of the city. Some years ago, I came up from Chambersburg, where I lived for a few years, and still owned the house on Ethel Street. And there was a question about a man or woman having a business out of their house on Devonshire Road. And I can't remember the details, but I know I came from Chambersburg to help support those people, few of us, who live on those few streets there that already are inundated with fast-moving cars. 2 blocks, they turn the corner on Ethel Street at the far end and zoom down to the library and stop again. And it's just amazing to watch. And the sign says, "Children playing." It doesn't stop anybody from traveling fast. So I just want to come on behalf of those little innocent people who are living along these streets, trying to keep the neighborhood as a neighborhood and not looking out for business constantly, so that it almost is not Colonial Park anymore, it's Colonial Business Park. And I would rather not see this new request go through, although it's been presented very effectively, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to be heard on ordinance 21-01? Okay.
I'm Marjorie Barrier. I own property along Parkway West Road. I'm very familiar with that tract of land. And the headwaters of the Paxton Creek, as the woman previously said, start there on that property, going along this border, all along there. So the sediment you're talking about, that's where it's going to go. The 40% of the open space that they're going to have is going to have to be planned all along that creek in order for that to be protected and for that to be safe. And as far as I know, there is no public sewage or public water anywhere along that section of Parkway West Road. And I think it's coming off from the western area. So that's quite a lot of municipal utilities that are going to have to be brought into that area. And I don't know who makes the decisions about that, and whether your sewage treatment situation is going to be able to accommodate that. These are my concerns, that the environment utilities and what seems to be a really dense impact to an area there that's really very fragile environmental land. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to be heard on ordinance 21-01? Seeing no further response, Mr. Chairman, it would be in order at this time to close the public hearing on ordinance 21-01, and the board may take action if it so desires.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Appreciate your conduct of the hearing. So, board members, we do have before us proposed ordinance 21-01. Do board members have any questions for Mr. McNaughton or any members of our staff before we proceed?
I do. When we reference the sketch plan, is that the sketch plan that's up on here? No.
No, it's the sketch plan that shows the, I think, 48 dwellings.
I don't know if that was in this packet. It was definitely before the planning commission, but
I don't believe it was in the
I don't
packet.
think it's in our packet.
However, keeping in mind this is the proposed rezoning, this isn't any sort of a preliminary land development plan. That would be, should this be approved, I assume that would be the next step.
Right.
Any other board member questions?
I would just say that I appreciate everybody's input. I read closely all the recommendations and the way it was worded from Dauphin County and from our township people. These are things that you have to be careful about. I understand that, and I definitely appreciate your concerns. I feel good that the professionals feel okay with it, especially given all the hoops that the developer will have to jump through environmentally, which I'm glad. And for that reason, I'll be supporting it tonight.
And I think the stormwater management program that the McNaughtons will have to go through, I think will actually help the stormwater back there with the sediment in the creek.
I also think it's worth noting that under the current zoning designation, the land can be developed. What we're talking about here is not whether or not it can be developed, but what the density would be. And I believe, Mr. Godshall, the difference is 16 units is what the difference would be between what it is now and what it would be if we went to R1. So even were this to not be approved, the developer still can develop. Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion on proposed ordinance 21-01?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-01, amending the LP zoning map for parcels 35-004-694, 35-004-030, changing from AR to R1.
Motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-0. I believe that is the only item we have under subdivision and land development, but we do have a number of improvement guarantees. And we don't need to, do we need to separate out anything here, Mrs. Lindsay?
Yes, if you could, the Shadebrook.
Shadebrook Phase
Yes,
3, we need
please.
to separate out?
Yes.
Okay. Could we have a motion to approve the improvement guarantees for Parkway East, Columbia Cottages, and Locust Lane?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have a motion to approve the improvement guarantee for Shadebrook Phase 3 extension?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Abstain?
Aye.
Aye. And that now brings us to the payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. So, Mr. Navarro, I believe you get the honor this evening.
You. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve all of our bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any additional announcements from board members or staff?
Just going to announce again, National Night Out, August the 3rd. If you're an organization and want to participate under the tent, Veronica, you need to call Corporal Cook or email Corporal Cook from the police department and sign up to have a table.
Any additional announcements? Hearing none, our next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will be a business meeting on Tuesday, July 6th at 7 p.m. here in this meeting room. The next meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Authority Board will be next Tuesday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. also here in this room. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.